You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is January 21st, 2025 special meeting of the LaPorte County Regional Sewer and Water District Board. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Okay, I'm calling the meeting to January 21st special meeting of the LaPorte County Regional Sewer District to order. If we could please rise and salute the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay.
Roll call.
John Carr,
Here.
Marcella Kunstick,
Here?
Jerry Jackson, Mitch Bishop,
Here.
Corey Campbell,
Here.
Mark Danielson,
Present.
Amanda Laners. Here. Everyone's here.
Everybody here? Okay, first item on the agenda is public comment. Anyone wishing to speak needs to state their name and address for the record, and we'll have 3 minutes to speak. Is there anybody for public comment? Nobody on Zoom? Okay, moving on. Board discussion on financial advisors rate report.
Do you want to have a sort of a overview?
Well, I think probably, I don't know whether you want Stephen Carter to go first or Ken, but I think really E and F kind of spill into each other.
Yeah,
So whoever of those two wants to take the lead is fine.
cool. Why don't I go first and I'll just turn the problem over to Steve.
Okay, good morning.
Is that on?
Sounds
Hey,
fair.
good to see you all.
It's on.
It's on.
So, most of you have been kind of, been advised as to what's been going on the last few weeks after the project bid opening for the Hudson-Saugony project phase 1, which we call Saugony Lake, and the connection to the wastewater facility. That project bid came in significantly over the expected budget, and so we've been working internally and with a few of the board members and with the state revolving loan fund officials to try to come up with a project that we think can fit into that budget, and one that would potentially be a project you could go forward with. What essentially it does is that it adds at least one more phase to the project, because what we're trying to do is to fit a project into the money that we have available to us. So for those of you that don't know, we've been working with the state revolving loan group for quite some time on this project. We filed a preliminary engineering report a couple years ago in our application package to the SRF, and it included a budget which at the time we felt was appropriate. And I think for most of you, you've had a chance to go through Steve's analysis as to how that estimate was prepared. But just briefly, I'll just kind of reiterate, and you correct me, Steve, if I step into the wrong area. So back in the last update that we did internally was in 2022, as we were officially applying for funds through the state revolving loan fund. We used recent bids that we had taken from a project that was similar in scope, probably larger in scope, but similar in scope. All of the same parts and pieces and equipment and similar contractors, and that's the number that we used and applied to the bid items or the pay items for the Saugony Lake project. As we fought through the project and we were able to actually stay on the state's project priority list, significantly high into the fundable range. That's a good thing for you, because that means that it's a good thing for your customers, actually, because that typically means that there will be some subsidization applied to the project to help buy down the impact to the rates. And sure enough, you know, they were offering that. And for those of you that are possibly new to the board, and for those of you that have been with the board, you know that we fought through a continuing, probably a year-long discussion with the county commissioners and the county council to try to get access to ARPA funds. And we started by making a request for 1.5 million. And we ended with a request for 1.5 million, and we were allocated 1.5 million. That took multiple meetings over the course of at least a year. And so we came out the other side of this funding acquisition effort, having 1.5 million from American Rescue Plan provided by the county, and a $5 million forgivable loan from the State Revolving Loan Fund, which we thought was going to be plenty sufficient to be able to tackle the phase 1 project. After the bids were open, we found that even the low bidder was significantly over the budget that we had allocated to the project. And so then, okay, what do we do now? So we did have some dialogue with State Revolving Loan Fund folks, and we're told pretty firmly that $5 million forgivable loan was the best they could do. There were some other things that they have the prerogative to do that we've asked for, that we haven't gotten complete answers for from the project managers. I have been in direct dialogue with the head of the Indiana Finance Authority, and we've talked significantly. I know how he feels about it. He wants this project to go forward, and from his perspective, he said, "I like the plan. Let's do it." And so we are waiting for the program officials to concur with him and with our proposal. So, and that includes the potential for that $5 million in forgivable loan, and the balance of the project at zero interest for whatever term we need it for. So that is where we currently stand with them. I feel strongly with the support of Jim McGough, who, by the way, has been a supporter of this district since day one, and from formation, basically. With his assistance, I feel strongly that we'll probably end up getting what we need to move the project forward. So we went through several iterations to try to offer the district board projects that could fit in that budget. And then we offered some variances on how the customers could pay for the project. And we understand why the board wasn't necessarily in favor of that and didn't feel comfortable with it, because there has been a lot of dialogue with this community over the last 6 or so years. So the final effort that we applied to this was, okay, if we can't really bring a significantly higher rate or a different way of paying for a higher cost project to the customers, then we need to adjust the scope of the project. And so Steve and his engineering group got together, and I told them where I thought we were going to land and what money we would have available, and I asked them to develop a project scope that would fit within that budget, and to make sure that everything about that project scope fit into the long-term overall plan for servicing the entire district. Sub-district is what we would call it. So that would be 100% of the Saugony Lake service area, 100% of the Hudson Lake service area. And by the way, we want to make sure that you understand that in the next couple phases, if we are able to go forward with the upgrades to the treatment facility, where we're actually building on another treatment unit out there, we will be able to serve about 250 to 300 additional resident style customers in the surrounding area. And we have project areas that we feel are going to be very attractive if we can offer that utility. So, so for those of you that have been involved in this a little bit, and I apologize that I didn't bring a big map, but all of you should have gotten this in your packet. This
Yep.
thing. Yeah. We actually, in this project, even though that and by the way, in case all of you didn't understand this, you know, in our agreement with the Indiana Toll Road, they said, yeah, you can use our right of way. The problem with it is to get from Saugony Lake to the treatment facility within their right of way, it was almost unbuildable. Relative to terrain, you know, the access, and then even after we built the pipe, how we would get access to take care of it in the future.
That was a concern of mine.
Yeah, so this run, Jerry, goes down county roads all the way to the treatment facility. The next phase of the project, where we will be going over to Hudson Lake, we can build that within their right of way and then get access to the pipe. So we'll be able to fully utilize that. And we realize that that'll probably equate to some savings in the project. So Steve Carter's been closely working with us on this. So the things that we've done, we've been advising him with. He's done and issued his report back to the State Revolving Loan Fund. That is the document. That schedule is what they are using, along with our memo to be able to understand exactly what we're proposing and how we're proposing to pay for it. So right now, what we've done in this pink area on your map, we've reduced the number of customers from about 270 to 86. And so that group of 86 customers would be paying a monthly rate that we had anticipated and you had hoped for going into the project, which is somewhere under $100, you know, in that area. That's what we've estimated. We might want to talk about what you're comfortable with relative to that. And these are, now we're using real numbers from bids, so we can feel fairly comfortable that we can accomplish it as long as State Revolving Loan Fund sees it our way and gives us the model that we've asked for. So I'm really kind of assuming that I'm going to hear back from either Bill Harkins or and actually they might communicate directly with Steve Carter, who I'm sure will broadcast any answers he gets to everybody. So we're hoping that happens this week. The good thing about this is you're not backing down or giving up on the idea of building out this sub-district. I think it's still in your goal and your duty, as you've told the people at Hudson and Saugony Lake, that you would do everything you can to help them, you know, within your ability, you know, and that's kind of where we're at right now. What is our ability going forward? So we have a lot that we're going to have to discover together going forward to try to wrestle that into submission. But this completes the full-size connection to the treatment facility, getting the sub-district connected to the treatment facility, which is one of the things that, by the way, that we had talked to the county commissioners and county council about. They were sensitive when they were allocating the 1.5 million. Is this going to help everybody? And we said absolutely, because we have a place where this money should go, and that's to help pay for the connection to the treatment facility. So without that connection to the treatment facility and without that 1.5 million dollars, we'd probably have to pick up all of our, you know, toys and go home at this point. But with that help, and by the way, I did talk to the council president last week and make sure that he understood that, you know, that we intend to use the money exactly what we had planned to. He was very appreciative of that and still supports.
And then however that this lays out and what we eventually do, we'll continue that line of communication with the president?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Yeah, we want to, you know, I mean, there was just a ton of dialogue on this. You know, of course, you know, the ARPA application or allocation from the federal government was important to every community, and they were very concerned, both the commissioners and the council, that money was spent well for infrastructure improvements. And our project was the one that they selected to support with that $1.5 million. So we want to make sure that they know that it's going to be used. So the way the project is structured up right now is we have two bids, one for contract A, one for contract B. Contract A is the full project for the connection, the large-scale wastewater lift station at the north side of Saugony Lake, and the full-scale pipe connection to the treatment facility, and then an upgrade at the treatment facility that's in the $440,000 range, somewhere in that neighborhood. So that project is currently, the bids for that project are at $4,461,000 and change. So
This is envisioning us taking our bigger project and chunking in
Yep.
more phases.
Yep.
What's the likelihood that SRF will say, "Oh, here's another 5 million, here's another 5 million, here's another 5 million"?
it's really going to depend on whether they can do that. You know, they have been warning us that things at the state revolving loan fund are changing. And that doesn't have anything to do with the way they want to allocate funds or have anything to do with the way they want to operate SRF. It has more to do with the state of Indiana's ongoing relationship with the federal government and where those funds come from.
Got you.
So normally the ability for, and I believe I understand this correctly, and somebody understands it better, I'm happy to be corrected. You know, the state's ability through the SRF to subsidize projects has a lot to do with support that they get from the US EPA through the federal budget. And
Are things changing at the federal level?
yeah, well, especially today, you know, we're probably gonna see, you know, the initial gut check, I think, in Washington's gonna be, let's pull back from these special funded things, because we have other priorities. We think that's gonna happen. We don't know to what level that's gonna happen. So what I think this sub-district is gonna wrestle with going forward is, what size of project can we afford? How much subsidization can we bring? And I think it's probably gonna get done in multiple phases over multiple years. Right now, I'm not the one really to predict what the SRF is gonna tell us next year. We would hope, because of this project's position on the project priority list, which has been high from day one. I mean, from day one, it has been in the top 11. We've never gone under the top 11, which means somehow if they can subsidize us, they're gonna subsidize us. So I don't anticipate that just by completing this project that it's gonna drop in status. I think it's probably gonna stay up there. And that has to do a lot with the partnership that the district's had with the IFA so far. You know, we took over a problem from them, if you remember. They had a wastewater plant they had no desire to keep. The district said, we'll take it, and as long as you'll support us as we go forward. And so we're gonna continue to kind of hold them to that. And but I can tell you that to a person, everyone that Steve and I and Steve Carter deal with at the State Revolving Loan Fund still has high level of support for this project and this district and the sub-district. And we've told them over and over again, man, this district has a lot to do. We have to keep this partnership going. And it's not only here, but it's in other places, all kinds of pockets across the county. Folks that are not in a good, reasonable financial position to support a high monthly rate. So we have got a lot to do, and it really depends on the partnership that we can arrange. So right now, again, we have two project bids. We want the board to talk about what they're comfortable with and what they would like to do. The first project what we say is contract A, which is the connection to the wastewater plant and the primary lift station for the sub-district, which is on the north side of Saugony Lake, is within the budget, within the current budget funds that we have at 4.4 million. We do have a qualified bidder. If you choose to, you could award that and go forward. The second project, the scope has changed so much, we don't believe that you should award that. We believe that you should rebid it and give us an opportunity to put together another bid spec that is a reduced project, and then put that back out to rebid. So, and I know we've had some interim dialogue with members of the trustees about the potential for rebidding it all. And I'm the one that has to stand here and tell you I don't recommend that. And the reason I don't recommend that is because we do have a qualified bid. As far as I know, I don't know everything about the responsible bidder ordinance and how that's applied, because that's not my area. I would look to the board and the legal counsel to tell you that. But my concern would be not so much, I mean, we've had bid challenges before in an award. We've had scenarios just recently in Middlebury where we had to award to the second highest bidder. And that bidder, the low bidder, challenged it, but he didn't formally challenge it, he just complained a lot. But the issue there was he wasn't qualified. It wasn't his price. As a matter of fact, he would have been the low bidder if we would award it, but he wasn't qualified. So that was one of those tough choices that we had to make. But in that case, he bid the project, but we have a very carefully written stipulation that the general contractor has to be providing or self-performing the majority of the project, and he was not. He was collecting up multiple subcontractors, and ultimately he was only doing a very small part of the project. He was managing the contract and the money was going through but he was not self-performing, so we could not award it. We've had, in other occasions, we've had challenges to bids as well where the low bidder was not awarded. In this case, there's kind of some layered concerns that JPR would have. The first and foremost is, if we rebid it, will we get a number that's similar? Or will that number be higher? And will the project get pulled out of our reach again? That's the biggest concern that I have. I can't tell you that's ever happened. It would really be very dependent upon this bidder rebidding again before I could even say that. And even then, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I just wanted to share,
You can chime in anywhere you want, so.
we also did reach out to the other bidders for both contracts A and B, and Ken's talking primarily about contract A, the main trunk line. We actually had some really good dialogue with one of the bidders, who was second. And he said, I re-looked at things and I could maybe cut some money out of our bid if it were rebid. And he thought they could cut about $200,000 to $300,000 off of their bid if the project was the same. And he said if we would consider allowing open cut instead of directional drill, we require directional drill for that whole length. He said we might be able to cut $250,000 to $500,000 additional out. What he said though in the end was there's no way if we rebid it we'd be down to that 4.5 million low bid that came from the low bidder.
Yeah.
So he said maybe we'd be between 5 and 5.5 was his thoughts on it.
And I can tell you that we didn't get, it's not like we were flooded with bids. I mean, we had, 3 bids on one contract, 2 bids on the other. Every single one of those bidders is qualified to build this project, every single one of them. And as a matter of fact, we have experience with at least 3 of them, and it's all been good, 100% good. So it really boils down to a matter of budget, and really it doesn't have anything other than do with, I just worry about, right now we have the state revolving loan fund working with us. They've told us what they can do. I don't think they're gonna, and we've already asked them, by the way, can you give us more subsidization? And the answer's been no.
Yeah.
And I got that directly from Jim McGough during the phone call. I've had 2 phone calls with him. And I said, so you've had time to look at can we get a more forgivable loan? And his answer was, the obligations that we currently have in the program doesn't allow that. And and that's where the backup plan where, well, we really need 0 interest, and we need to be able to get your buy-in for us to reduce the size of the project. And so that's where we stand. And I'm waiting, I think he's waiting, if he's, as a matter of fact, I think Steve Carter and I both got an email from Bill Harkins on Friday saying, hey, we got your proposal, we're looking at it. And I'm sure that was probably following a phone call that they got from Jim McGough. So we haven't been told for sure that the deal is a done deal. So hopefully that we'll be hearing that early this week at some point. So I know. So that is, again, it isn't up to JPR to make this decision. It is up to the board.
Right.
It is up to the board. And
Can I make a quick comment?
There's nothing. I can only give you what advice I believe in.
Right.
And you would never get anything more from me.
And we appreciate that for sure.
Right.
I mean, I really appreciate all your hard work on this. I mean, just, my personal opinion is that first and foremost, A came in $1 million over. Contract B came in $2.1 million over. I appreciate, like you said, the work that you've done behind the scenes and how you feel about us awarding contract A. Personally, for me, this bid over 30 days ago, we're making significant changes to B. I feel, in all fairness, both projects should be rebid out of fairness to all contractors. We've got a timeline we're going to end up having to extend anyway. So I feel like what's the problem with rebidding both of them? I do understand what you've presented and your concerns to us. That is my feeling. That is how I'm going to vote. And, it's up to my fellow board members, obviously, to give their opinions as well. Jerry's a professional, does this, Mitch, this is all they do. But that is my opinion out of the fairness of bidding. I do not believe we should award one project over another.
I completely understand that. And again, and just from my side, you understand how I have to advise.
100%.
I get,
Jerry, yeah.
Have we asked the low bidder if they're willing to change scope? You've lowered quantities,
we have, there were some concerns, but the scope that we lowered are all pretty firm bid items from.
meaning if we say, here's the job, here, we're gonna award it to you, but we're gonna award you this much of this, will they say, take a hike, or are they okay?
I don't know if I've actually got that answer.
We haven't
Microphone, please.
asked the low bidder that specific question. I think it becomes more of a legal issue. Can we post bid, change the contract, the bid so much where we're reducing it by 75% of the scope?
We would be opening ourselves.
Are you talking about, Jerry, A or B? You're not talking about.
He is the one that's being
Correct.
downsized.
Yeah.
B, I don't think the board has any choice in B. If we are changing the scope from 270 some odd to 80,
Yeah.
and even if we do an alternate, which I'm a proponent of, because I think if for some reason we rebid that project and the numbers do come in at 85 or 80, I think the board ought to consider, since we went into this project with a projected fee of 105, that the board ought to consider, which I think they're going to do the bidding this way, another 20 homes, another 30 homes, because I think, as crazy as it sounds, as great as it would great to have a number of 80 instead of 105, what does that mean for phase 1A and 1B? I mean, are we just going to then have those next phases be 150, 160, 170, such that you get sticker shock? I think the board would be wise to maximize the current generous, forgivable loan package we have and do the most we can do on this. That's the contract B. So I don't think the board has any choice, unless they're going to go forward as written, and we have a monthly rate of $180 or something a month. The board's got to reject that bid.
I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
And, you know, like one of the scenarios that could happen is there might be some guy out there.
Microphone.
Oops. There might be some guy out there that says, I couldn't bid it before because I couldn't bond that amount. But now that you've lowered the value of the project, I can bond that amount. So we might get 2 or 3 extra bidders. We don't know.
So
Speaking of extra bidders, what is the, and again, we got to go through A, B, and C first and what we're going to figure out to do. But whatever we decide, if we do have, is there a plan to start looking at another bidder, 1, 2, or 3 to add so we get more, better coverage of all the bids?
I'm not sure
are you talking about, Mark,
I'm trying to.
what outreach are we doing to
What outreach are we getting so we might possibly get 1 or 2 more contractors?
Steve can answer that more completely than I can.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, even on the original bid, we have interested bidders lists that we keep and maintain at our own offices. And then we also, so when it comes time for the formal advertisement, we shoot that out to a mass list of people, all across northern Indiana, really. Because, we see projects of this size, contractors do travel quite a bit. We also send out advertisements to all the different plan rooms that these contractors subscribe to, so they get notices. So that's getting out there
It
as
was
well.
well advertised.
Yeah, and then we also, we make direct calls. And after the advertisement's been out for a few weeks, we make calls and say, hey, are you interested or not?
Yeah.
And even as we were going through the first bid, we knew as it was coming down to the, at the pre-bid that we probably only had those 3 or 4 contractors who were interested. We reached out to others since this bid has been received and got a lot of the same answers. Certain companies aren't going to bid it just because of their current workload, or they don't have their own directional drilling crews, which to them means it's going to cost more money if they have to sub that type of work out. So I think we've done a pretty good job of outreach and letting these local contractors and regional contractors know about the project and express an interest. We did even make a change during the bidding process. We made a formal addendum to extend the contract time because we'd heard from a few of the contractors, look, we'd love to bid this job, but we have our work is already full through 2025. Can you extend it into 2026? And we did that. And if we go through some rebidding here, we would likely take the project into 2026 or maybe even beyond that to make sure, we can entice as many bidders as possible to bid the project.
And that's all I'm asking is to, from people that are on the board to expand and talk to their contractors that they know. They need to communicate with you so they aren't doubling up with what you're doubling up on. And I fully understand the process of extending it out. We're lowering it somewhat, which may be beneficial to some. And if there's any way that we can change some of these, not a full-length bore and do sections and that you can get more people participating, that's another way of doing it too. I just want to making sure that we're all trying to get from point A to point D and trying to look at all the different ways. That's it.
And just so you know, I think it's our plan that.
Ken, you want to move up so they can hear you?
It's our plan that once we frame this project up, get it bid, get it awarded, go under construction, we're gonna need to sit down with the trustees and say, okay, how are we gonna compartmentalize this project going forward so we can fit it into, and, to be honest with you, Mark, that, we found that, we've had projects in the past where there was, given the climate, the bidding climate out there, if we can compress the project, make it smaller and fit into what some of the smaller contractors are capable of doing, then we'll get a bigger group. We had projects that we bid last year where we got 0 bidders. And it had to do with the level of complication of the project and the size of the project.
Exactly. And then if we're stretching it out even another half a year or a year,
Yeah.
trust me, they're looking at that.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
So
And trying to make it as user-friendly as possible.
I appreciate your honesty.
Yep.
So, from a legal standpoint, the board it's not the responsible bidder ordinance, it's just the bidding procedures under the state statute. The board basically said they have 2 options. They can award the contract to the lowest responsible and responsive bidder or reject all bids. So, if you were choosing not the low bidder, but a second or third, much like what Ken, I think, went through in Middlebury, board has to be really careful, has to have resolutions, has to have a very specific spelled out reason for why you didn't choose low bidder as the award bidder. However, I don't think the board has to have necessarily that level of justification for rejecting bids, because the statute just says you can reject them.
Right.
So legally, the board has the right to reject them. And I don't presume to have near the knowledge of this board collectively or JPR, because as you look at all the board members here, you guys have all been involved in bidding more. So legally, I think you have the ability to reject both. I would only say, as the person you pay to be the most pessimistic person on the board or in this room, we better make sure that we have some reasonable hope that when we rebid, A, we get bids no worse than we got. Again, the one, Project B, we have no choice. That's getting rebid, unless we're going forward and charging a huge rate. On the second one, though, I just want the board to have some collective confidence that we are going to get no worse than that number, and that if that bidder truly is the low guy in town, that they will still be willing to do it at all or at that number. And I know nothing about any of these. Well, that's not true. I know some of the bidders because as a LaPorte County guy, I have connections with them. I don't know anything about the low bidder, one way or the other.
You guys said that you vetted the bids and went through everything, and that all the bidders met all the criteria for everything, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that is a concern, though. And for instance, sewer and water project we just finished up on 400 North. Oh, that was originally won by, I think, Grimmer. And it was rebid. There's a reason for the rebid. Of course, it was funding at the time. We rebid it, and then the new bid, the winner, was over $1 million higher than Grimmer 9 months later. So that is definitely a valid concern in my mind, and similar project, a sewer project in LaPorte County.
Yeah.
So.
But it is absolutely the board's decision.
Yeah.
You have the legal right to do it, and no matter what you decide, Steve Carter, myself, Randy Rampala,
Motion.
Ken's firm, we will figure out a way to make the project move forward.
Stupid spiel.
Okay.
Okay. Were you going to go ahead and say something too? And
I had one question, which just because when you were discussing something, I wanted to be clear, is I realize we're completely changing the scope of B. A is it's absolutely staying the same.
Even though the users change.
That was my in other words, we're building that the way it was to handle the future capacity for the next 1, 2, 3 phases.
We
still
really
feel the
need
same
to-
way.
We need to stick with that concept, because if you,
Microphone,
if
sorry.
the only way we don't stick with that concept is if we make the decision right now that the entire service area as originally contemplated won't be served. So like right now, we've reduced the project to the lakefront mostly at Saugony Lake. If we did the same at Hudson Lake, would we need that size of force main, going all the way to the wastewater plant, or that size of lift station? So it could, that could drive, but right now, we're saying, as far as we know, your intention is to serve the entire service area, which is 100% of the surface area at Saugony Lake, which means, all of these adjacent neighborhoods, and then the same at Hudson Lake. So that's equivalent to, 1,150 or 1,200 EDUs or customers. So,
All right.
Yeah,
Would, but combining both contract A and B together and rebidding together wouldn't be beneficial, or?
I really wouldn't want to hazard a guess on that. It would be really anyone's. I don't think I'd love to make an educated guess, but in this case, I'd probably be wrong. So,
Well, I'm just, I'm going to make a motion that just based on the engineer's estimate and the bids that, as they were received, that they both came in as a total 3.1 million over the engineer's estimate. I would suggest that we reject all bids and rebid both phases, A and B.
second.
We got motion and a second to reject both bid contracts, A and B, and rebid. Any questions?
Just to be clear, we had envisioned kind of the discussion here was to rebid A as originally bid.
No, it wasn't at B.
B would be reduced, A would remain the same.
So in other words, B was the one that I think we have no choice
Right.
if we're going to move forward.
But they were both
A-
over.
Yeah, A is the one that's the scope stays the same.
Yeah, so exact same scope in A,
Yes.
and we're to rebid it
It was $1 million.
and hope that.
Yeah, we're gambling a little bit.
Yeah.
It could certainly go up.
I mean, is there anything?
But it could go
Usually
down.
does.
It could go down.
It usually doesn't.
Okay.
It usually doesn't end, but it's difficult. We're in
Oh, it is.
We're in a tough position because we've all seen the bids for the last several years. Where you get no bidders, you get 2 or 3, and then the next one you get 6 or 7. And it's probably been the latter in the last few years. It's
It's a weird environment.
and then we don't really know what the political and all what's going to happen in 25 and 26, but we need to keep moving on and grab what we can, and just it is a risk, but I
So, do you guys have an estimate on what the new contract B would possibly be around, budget wise?
Yeah, we've
We got
it right at about 2.3 million.
what's that? 2 point.
Yeah.
2.2
And
million.
you use the bid numbers, right?
Using
Yeah.
the bid number.
okay.
It looks like it's 2.5 according to 2.5 or thereabouts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess excuse me. I guess it just comes down to we like attorney says, we have to at least do B. Feeling is right now that the vote that we have right now is to do both, but I hope that we really beat the bushes from not only your end but our end to try to get that extra 1 or 2 another contractor, and hopefully because of it being lower and a smaller pie and out longer, there may be 1 or 2 that maybe do that, and it's a risk.
Hey, could I jump in real quick?
Yes, sir.
I'm late for another call, but I wanted to let you know, I did just get a response from Bill Harkins at SRF. They are willing to extend the timeline for closing. I think if I read his email right, we'll need to close by May 9th. So that's positive. I did not get any indication from them firmly about the 0% interest, but every conversation I've had with them on that has been positive, so I'd anticipate we get that. If there are any questions regarding the rate, about $93.50, and that's based on the existing bids on Project A and the reduced project scope on B. I can talk through those if you have any questions before I jump off here.
No, that's good info.
Do you guys have? Okay. All right.
Okay. Any other questions, comments?
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Would that time frame? I'm assuming that time frame would give us enough time to do what. I mean, we know it's not. Regardless, the time frame's about the same whether you do one or two, right?
Right.
They would. So I mean, we're going to be okay with that time frame.
Here's the thought we had. If we rebid, whether it's A and B or just B only, we'd be ready for first advertisement the first week of February, like the first Friday of February, February 7th, I believe.
Okay.
Second advertisement a week after that. And then we thought we'd maximize the bid time as long as possible. You know, by state law, we're allowed to advertise something for 6 weeks. We set a date where bids would be received in about 5.5 weeks after that first advertisement, middle of March, week before your normal board meeting in March, and we'd be able to come to you with a formal recommendation in mid-March. Then the question is, how much time do we need from that point on to introduce the rate ordinance, advertise it as needed, and do those types of things. Usually we're looking at about 2 months to do that. Steve said April 9th. Did he say that was a pre-closing or a final
May.
closing?
I thought he said
May 9th.
May. So if we have March, April, it'd be about 2 months. It'd probably be really tight,
close.
but I think it's real close.
doable.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, any other questions? Proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by the word aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Okay, anything else?
I think that's it on the agenda, isn't it, Don?
Yeah.
So, yeah, we have our normal meeting
Next
Next
week.
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Don't make me stay, Bear.
No, absolutely not. No. I was just thinking as I was watching up here, I'm like, we never voted for office. And then I'm thinking, oh, that's right, we didn't have that meeting yet.
Yeah,
So.
next week. Okay, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
Motion second to adjourn. All in favor signify by the word aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned. 9.